to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about an idea that has been floated about by a lot of my subscribers regarding the New York Giants and potentially trading back up into the first round if we do indeed draft Isaiah Simmons at number 4 overall, which is starting to become at least, fairly likely. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but if it were to happen, I think we all agree that offensive tackle is a huge need for this team. And if they sit and wait at number 36, they may not get the tackle that could make an immediate impact on this roster. And I'll get into some of the specifics as to what would make this possible and why the Giants may be willing to move up and what spot in the draft do I think that they'd be willing to move up to. But before I get started, I want to give a quick shout out to one of my best subscribers, Silva. Always posts on Twitter asking me Giants questions, and I want to shout him out because he gave me the idea to make this video. Is it too unrealistic, and should I be in a straitjacket for thinking Simmons at number 4 and Gettleman working a trade to get back into the bottom of the first round for a tackle? What could the G-men get for Ingram and some of those late picks, that they own? So last year, if you remember, and I'll get into the exact specifics, Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants obviously moved up from 37 to 30 to go up and get DeAndre Baker. So Gettleman has shown in the past when the team has a need that he's willing to make that move. And obviously, if they were to pass on a tackle at 4, and there was, a top-tier tackle there later in the draft, it's definitely a possibility that they could move up. The question is, what would be the cost? Now, JC asked me about Evan Ingram. For the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to leave Evan Ingram out of it. Right now, I think Evan Ingram, obviously, they haven't committed to him yet on his rookie deal. In terms of the extension, he's in a walking boot. I don't know how much trade value he has. But it's very possible you could involve Evan Ingram in a trade. I will definitely not rule that out. Usually when there's trades like this in the draft, though, a lot of times it's for draft picks. That's what I think the team would want. And like I said, the only way this makes sense, in my opinion, is you'd have to have one of the better tackles fall back, into the second half of the draft. I don't see the Giants being able to move all the way from 37 to 12 to go up and get a tackle. It would be way too big of a price tag, and Giants fans would not be behind it. It would have to be, a guy like Mekhi Becton, a guy like Andrew Thomas would have to fall into the, into the 21-22 range to be able to move up and make this happen. Maybe you trade up for Josh Jones, which is a possibility as well. Now, you look at the top, part of the draft. Obviously, in this scenario, one of the teams that's very likely to take a tackle in the first is the Giants. They would not have taken one. So you look at the rest of the teams. For one of these top 4 tackles to leak into the second part of the draft, you would have to have the Jets probably take a wide receiver, which I think all of us view as a possibility. Maybe the Cardinals don't take a tackle. I think they probably will, so let's say that they do. Let's say the Cardinals and Browns both go offensive line. It's possible the Browns don't. They obviously signed Conklin, but I would guess that they do as well. So 2 tackles would be off the board. Let's say, for sake of the exercise, the Jets pass on a tackle, and then it trickles down. Obviously the Broncos get their wide receiver. A number of other teams, the Raiders take their wide receiver, and let's say that one of these 4 get into the 20s. What teams would be the most realistic teams that the Giants could trade up with, and what would be the cost? Well, I'm going to take a quick look at the draft chart and take a look at what teams the Giants can make a move with. But before we do, I wanted to go over what the price tag was last year when the Giants moved up from 30 to 37 to go up and get DeAndre Baker. To grab Baker, the Giants sent their second-round pick, which was 37th overall, a 4th-round pick, and a 5th-round pick to move up and get Baker. And that, made the points offset. Obviously, we're going to go over the point chart and show you what the disparity is from pick 36 to whatever pick I deem that I think they would have to, potentially move up to go and get this tackle. But that was the price that the Giants had to give up last year when they made a move that would probably be, they'd probably have to give up more than this because you're probably going to have to jump a little bit more if you want to get your hands on a guy like Mekhi Becton if you were to drop, or Josh Jones, or a guy like Andrew Thomas. Next thing I wanted to pull up was the draft chart. Now, I looked from 21 to 32 because I think this would be the range where the Giants could realistically try to jump from 36 up. Now, you're not trading with the Eagles, and by all accounts, a lot of people believe the Eagles might actually trade up to go and get a wide receiver, but the Eagles would never trade with the Giants, and I think the Eagles would stand pat there if they didn't trade up and take the best wide receiver available. Minnesota is a team that could definitely take a wide receiver as well. They have a few needs. They could absolutely go offensive line, but let's say for the sake of this exercise, they say, well, we got New England and New Orleans behind us. We're picking again at 25. let's take our other need, and then we'll get our tackle at 25 if they planned on taking a tackle. I think that's entirely possible because most people probably wouldn't think that New England or New Orleans would take a tackle. They got to pick in 3 picks. So let's say they take a wide receiver. You got New England, who I think it could either go quarterback. I don't think they'll go offensive tackle because they have so many holes on that defense after they lost guys like Van Noy, Jamie Collins. So I think they're either going with like an edge rusher or they're going maybe with a quarterback. They could go tackle, but I don't think it's likely. 24 to me makes the most sense if one of these guys were to drop for the Giants to move up and get him. For the simple reason that you got 2 teams behind them that could go tackle, with Minnesota if they didn't do it at 22 and Miami if they hadn't yet done it at 18. So that to me makes the most sense if this were to be possible for the Giants to go up and get that tackle. I think that is the spot that they'd have to do it. Now, what would be the incentive for the New Orleans Saints to trade out of number 24? Well, a lot of people think that the New Orleans Saints, who's a pretty complete team at this point in time, their biggest need is a wide receiver, opposite of Michael Thomas. I've had Brandon Ayuk go in there, and there's a number of wide receivers that people think could go to the New Orleans Saints. Well, there are a lot of top-tier wide receivers in this year's draft, and they may very well feel, if that is the position they covet, unless they're in love with a guy like Ayuk, maybe we could still get a top wide receiver at 36, whether it's a guy like Laviska Shenault or a guy like T. Higgins, and accumulate more assets, because obviously the Giants would have to give up more than just 36 to move up to get 24. So to me, that team actually makes the most sense in the back end of the draft to trade back up with to try and go get that tackle in the scenario in which the Giants would take Isaiah Simmons, and we're still trying to fill what a lot of people feel is the team's biggest need, which is a right tackle and a left tackle of the future. Now, what would the price be, you ask? Well, let's take a quick look at the point chart and let's see exactly what I think the Giants would have to give up. Last year I said that, to move up from 37 to 30, the Giants had to give up a 4th and a 5th. Well, here we're talking about a jump from 36 to 24. So if you look at the point chart, 24 is where Oakland was picking in this draft, and it is worth 740 points. The Giants pick at 36, if we scroll back up, is worth 540 points. So you're talking about a difference of 200 points. Obviously, we're getting 740. They're getting 540. How do you make up those 200 points? Well, the Giants' next pick is at 99. So at 99, the Giants' pick is worth just over 100 points. It's worth 104. So you would still need to make up between 90 and 100 points. Now, how do you do that? Well, in my opinion here, you're giving up your second. You're giving up your third. Obviously, you're replacing that second with an earlier pick. So you're really giving up your third. I don't want to give up any more picks in this draft, though. We have so many needs. Maybe, a couple of back-end picks. But I would think that the New Orleans Saints would want a better price tag than a 4th and a 5th. The 99th pick is essentially a 4th-round pick. Obviously, a very early 4th-round pick because it's a back-end third with the comp pick. I would think it would require a 99 and probably a future 4th to move up to go and get him. Maybe a future 4th and a future 6th, something like that. But I think that would be the price tag. You're giving up more, obviously, being that you're giving up 99 and a early 4th or a future 4th or whatever it may be. Last year it was a 4th and a 5th, so you're giving up a little bit more. You're obviously jumping, 5 more spots because we'd be picking a pick earlier in the second round. So that is around the price that I think it would cost. And the only way it makes sense for me, if I'm the Giants, like I said from the start, is if one of those better tackles were to fall to where the New Orleans Saints were picking. That's the only way this makes any sense. I'm not trading up for, a guy outside of the top 4 tackles. Maybe I'm willing to trade up for Josh Jones because Josh Jones, after all, does have some upsides. Everything you read about him, he has moved up mocks, and some people view him as close to the top 4. But nobody more, nobody other than that. I'm not trading up for Austin Jackson. I would sooner wait and hope he fell to me or take potentially a center. Also, I'm going to be doing a 7-round mock draft. I'm not sure if I said that at the beginning of the video. I'm going to try to have that up today as well. A lot of people requested what would the Giants do if they took Isaiah Simmons. My last 7-round mock draft, I took a tackle. But yeah, I think if you wanted to fill both needs in the first round, these are the things that would need to happen for it to add up. One of those top 4 or 5 guys would have to fall into the back end of the first round, and you'd have to find a partner. And looking at the draft board, I think the partner that makes the most sense by far is actually the New Orleans Saints, being that they're a complete team. They're looking for a wide receiver. Wide receiver is a very deep position in this year's draft. So that would be the team that I think the New York Giants could potentially target, and those are the players that I think they could potentially target to move up and get their tackle. And then all Giants fans would be happy on draft night. You got Isaiah Simmons, your captain of the defense, hopefully for the next 10 years, and you've got your offensive tackle, the guy that you could, hopefully protect Daniel Jones for the next decade. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.